Hi, I'm Sue.
Hi, I'm Ian.
And
we're the chemistry technicians.
We're going to do a series of clips over the next year or two, which hopefully will help you with your practical skills.
Hope so.
Good luck.
Hello, today I'm going to show you some simple test tube reactions that you can use to identify various different ions. First of all, we are going to identify the carbonate ion. So I'm going to add a carbonate solution to a test tube. I'm going to add an equal volume of dilute acid, in this case nitric acid, to a test tube as well. Before I do this, I'm actually going to move the test tube in front of a black area so you get a better view. Now pay attention.
Can't find it. There we go.
Now you should have seen effervescence being given off. This is carbon dioxide gas being given off. Now this can happen very quickly, so it's important to pay attention, otherwise you might miss this.
Hello. Next I'm going to show you how to test for the sulfate ion. I'm going to put a little bit of sodium sulfate in my test tube. And then I'm going to add some barium nitrate. As you can see, we get a nice white precipitate of barium sulfate appearing. Now if you let it stand for a few minutes, the precipitate will sink to the bottom so that you can clearly see the colours of both the precipitate and the solution. Here's the sulfate precipitate. We've left it to stand for 10 minutes and you can clearly see it's sunk to the bottom, and it's easy to distinguish now that it's a white precipitate in a colourless solution.
Hello again. Next we're going to show you 3 tests to distinguish between the chloride, bromide and iodide ions. First I'm going to add some sodium chloride to that tube. Next some potassium bromide to the next tube. And the final tube, I'm going to add some potassium iodide. Now to each of these 3 tubes I will add a small quantity of silver nitrate. And we should see 3 different colours of precipitate forming. So in the first tube, so in the sodium chloride tube you can see there is a white precipitate forming. In the potassium bromide tube you can see there is a creamy white precipitate, and in the potassium iodide tube over here you can see there's a yellow precipitate forming. I'm now going to add some dilute ammonia to each test tube to see what happens. Here we are, going into the first, into the chloride, and into the bromide, and into the iodide. So add a little tiny bit more, excuse me. Just to make it fair. And you can see that the chloride is soluble in the dilute ammonia solution. I'm now going to move over to the fume cupboard for the next test, because we'll be using concentrated ammonia, and we're going to be adding it to the bromide and iodide precipitates. I'm going to turn on the fume cupboard, so you might not hear me now. Okay, and you can see that the bromide precipitate has dissolved, whereas the iodide has not.
Okay, finally, I'm going to show you the test for the ammonium ion. First, I'm going to put some ammonium nitrate in a test tube. And then I'm going to add some sodium hydroxide solution. Now I need to heat this gently, so I'm going to hold my test tube in some test tube holders, and I'm going to heat it very gently over a blue flame. Just waft it in and out. Make sure you're not pointing the end of the test tube at anyone, so that if it boils over, you're not going to hurt anybody. Now after a few moments, a gas should be evolved. Now the test for the gas is a damp piece of red litmus paper. If you hold that in the mouth of the tube like that, and you see it's turning blue, that's what ammonia does to red litmus paper.